This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
All right, it is all going down on this Monday, August 18th. I admit some days we struggle to find material. This is not one of those days. The suspense is building. We're sitting here on pins and needles awaiting the arrival of Vladimir Zelensky at the White House, along with his posse. This time he's bringing backup. He's bringing all the European leaders, including Giorgia Meloni, Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer. All the Euro weenies are tagging along to provide a little support for Zelensky, and we're not sure what he's going to wear. There is lots of speculation on X online. There was a rumor that Trump told him, wear a suit or don't show up. I'm not sure that's true, but I'd like to believe it. It sounds like something Trump would do. We will see at 1 o'clock Eastern time when Zelensky is expected to be greeted at the White House by Donald Trump to begin discussions about ending the war. It was quite a weekend. You know what's probably the most amazing thing I saw over the weekend? Trump arrived back at the White House at 5 a.m. Saturday morning after his meeting, his summit with Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska. And by noontime, he was on the golf course. He is a 79-year-old just machine. And that triggered many of the Trump haters out there, that he actually took time out to tee it up over the weekend. But that's what he does. That's how he unwinds after a really long, tense trip to Alaska, which again has set off many Democrats and members of the media, because he actually used a red carpet for a war criminal. But I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this optic. This could be the most badass thing I've ever seen a president do. Putin walks the red carpet on the runway with Donald Trump, and a B-2 stealth bomber flies above him, and Putin just looks up and thinks, wow, I wish I had one of those. This is such a uniquely American show of strength. I think those are F-35s escorting the B-2 just above Putin, and he takes a good look at that. And then Trump takes him in the presidential limo, the Beast, and they drive by all the other B-2s just to show him what kind of capabilities we have. No one else has those. Nobody has sold them the plans to the Chinese or the Russians yet. That's made in America. And the rumor was the B-2 that flew over was one of the B-2s that bombed Iran just a few weeks ago. And I think the message was sent. Doesn't matter to Democrats. He was accused of legitimizing a war criminal. They hate the idea that Trump may indeed broker peace yet again. Trump's posting this morning about all the wars he's ended. He says 6 wars in 6 months. This is the big one, though. I mean, most of us didn't even know, Rwanda and the Congo were at war before Trump settled that one. It was good. He's a man of peace. And I think they're making a mistake. Once again, I think Democrats and the media are falling into the trap. They were going nuts over the weekend because of this meeting, just saying it was a disgrace and a disaster because there was no ceasefire announced. But I remind you, that was 3 days ago. Today's another day. Today's a whole new negotiation. Then tomorrow, then the next day. There can be a ceasefire at some point. There can be crippling sanctions at some point. Just because he didn't announce them 10 minutes after the meeting ended, or the press conference. It wasn't actually a press conference. No questions were allowed. But Democrats were upset that he allowed Putin to speak first, that he actually had service members roll out a red carpet. What does that matter? They're so into like symbolism. Again, all he wants to do is end the war. And in Trump's mind, it's a big one, but it's just another negotiation. And what he was doing with all of it, with the optics, with the B-2, with the red carpet, with the handshake, it was all the means to an end. It was all part of a larger negotiation, a larger strategy to end the war. So if it helps end the war by rolling out a red carpet and actually hosting a war criminal on American soil, what are they going to say then? What would be the criticism then if that was step one? This today is step two, a big one. And if this goes well, if indeed there is a ceasefire, if indeed there is a plan to end the war, what then? We'll get to some of these Democrats and these media people who are upset at Trump for just doing this, for doing what he thinks is necessary to end the war. But what's their alternative? That's my other question. What's their alternative? Would they just want to send more money, more weapons? Do they want to send troops? Do they want it to escalate into a larger war? Do they want to challenge Putin to use nukes? What is their solution? There is never, ever a solution. All they want to do is say Putin bad, Trump bad, sanctions or weapons, money. They never talk about ending it. They never talk about solving it. All they can do is point at Trump and say he's a bad guy and Putin's a criminal and Trump's appeasing him or placating him. That's it. That's all you get. I watched lots of the reaction to this from Democrats. I couldn't get enough. I was watching actually, it's not MSNBC anymore. No, they rebranded. It's MS Now. That's going to solve their problems. That's going to help their ratings. MS Now. All right, let's get to some of the reaction up. Because I got to say, this was historic, just watching this thing. And I understand there was no big announcement. I understand they took no questions. And I understand Putin kept attacking, kept shelling Ukraine after the meeting. But this was the first thing I feel like that we've seen in 3 years that actually might be a step towards ending the killing, the dying, which is the Trump doctrine. Stop the killing. That's his goal. Whatever it takes to get there is, in his mind, part of a larger plan. But that doesn't matter to Democrats. Trump's doing it. It's bad. Trump's trying to stop violent crime in Washington, D.C. That's bad. They come out in favor of violent crime, in favor of teenage gangs terrorizing the city because Trump is against it. Here, Trump is for peace. That is clear. So they're against it. Here's Representative Jason Crow from Colorado. Go ahead.
But compare that to what this administration has done, which has relieved almost all pressure. Like, look at what happened on Friday. U.S. military personnel in uniform literally were on their hands and knees rolling out a red carpet for the most murderous dictator of the 21st century. Somebody who is kidnapped and is holding prisoner tens of thousands of Ukrainian children. Somebody who started this whole war, right? This both sidesism that the administration is engaging in, that both sides need to come to the table and negotiate. Ukraine is the victim. They are the victim. They didn't start this war, Russia did. And somehow we keep on acting like Vladimir Putin deserves to be brought out into the open like any other head of state. Yeah. This is a historic embarrassment and defeat for U.S. foreign policy.
Historic embarrassment and defeat. What if it works? God, this drives me nuts. I've been railing against this for 3 years now. What if it works? What if this is part of a plan to end it? He says Vladimir Putin, war criminal, dictator, whatever, vicious. All. Yes, that's true. And if you don't make a deal, if you can't get a settlement here, a peace deal, then he continues to murder Ukrainians. Then Ukrainians will continue to die. So what's your solution? Point at him, say he's bad, he's evil, he's awful. Don't you want to continue to isolate him? How has that worked? And Ukraine's the victim. Yeah, okay, they're the victim. And they're going to continue to be the victim, you idiot. If you don't talk to Putin, what you get is what you've had for 3.5 years. What you get is what the Biden administration wrought, which was this vicious, brutal war where hundreds of thousands of people have died over slivers of land. That's what you get. That's what Joe Biden delivered to that area, to Ukraine. That's why people are dying. That's why a generation is being wiped out because of this foolishness that Putin bad, Ukraine good. Let's keep the war going. Let's keep it going. Who else? Well, we got Chris Murphy. Yes, we got to get to this clown. God, What is wrong? What is wrong with you, Connecticut? Why do you send this buffoon to the Senate? I understand it's Connecticut, it's Massachusetts, it's Rhode Island, it's New England. There's like something written in law that you have to elect the biggest buffoons, the biggest clowns that just embarrass your state every day, which is what this guy is. Here he is explaining what a disaster this summit was.
Conversation with Secretary Rubio, we specifically started talking about the fact that President Trump initially said he wanted a ceasefire agreement. Now he wants a broader peace deal. Secretary Rubio defending that approach, basically saying the Russians wouldn't agree to a ceasefire. Do you think that it's the right strategy to now focus on that broader peace deal?
That meeting was a disaster. It was an embarrassment for the United States. It was a failure. Putin got everything he wanted. I mean, first of all, he wanted that photo op, right? He wanted to be absolved of his war crimes in front of the world. He was invited to the United States. War criminals are not normally invited to the United States of America. He is intentionally murdering civilians. He's kidnapping children. And now he got to stand next to the president of the United States, legitimized in the view of the world. Second, he didn't have to give up anything, nothing. Right? President Trump said he wanted a ceasefire. It appears the ceasefire wasn't even seriously discussed. And then third, there's no consequences. Trump said, if I don't get a ceasefire, Putin's going to pay a price. And then he walked out of that meeting saying, I didn't get a ceasefire. I didn't get a peace deal. And I'm not even considering sanctions. You heard.
Enough of this. I can't stand this guy. Question. Kristen Welker, here's the question. Here's what you should be asking. What's your solution, Senator Murphy? What would you do? You just said he's killing civilians, taking kids and bombing buildings and real death and carnage. You just want to continue that? Is that your plan, Chris? Just continue the Biden doctrine of never even speaking to Putin, of never even exploring the possibility of ending the war? That's your plan, Chris Murphy, Jason Crow, Susan Rice? They put her on like she's some objective, expert analyst. Here's Susan Rice saying that she thinks Vladimir Putin may have bugged the beast, the presidential limo, when Trump brought him in for a ride. Check this out.
It was, in short, Jen, a big victory for Vladimir Putin. He walked off his plane onto a red carpet to a clapping Donald Trump and a flyover of American military aircraft, an extremely warm reception, and then they get into the President of the United States limousine, one-on-one with no staff and no interpreters. And Putin apparently speaks good enough English to carry on a conversation. I hope, Jen, that he did not drop a bug in the backseat of the president's limousine as a former KGB chief, because having Putin in that limousine is really quite an extraordinary gesture. And then
shut up. I can't stand this. This is one of the worst war pigs out there. This is a woman that loves war, that doesn't give a damn about children in Ukraine or nursing homes. She wants it to continue. That's her life's work. Pointless, endless, stupid foreign wars like this one that Democrats are doing everything they can to escalate. That's what they want. They live in fear right now that Trump will end it. This, as he pointed out today, he's ended 6 wars. This would be number 7. This would be the big one. And putting him in the beast, rolling out a red carpet, whatever, shaking his hand, this is an effort to stop the damn war. I know it's repeating myself here, but I want to get to this Biden clip because this is who they support. Chris Murphy, Jason Crow, Susan Rice, you name it. Garry Kasparov, who went on MSNBC. I'm sorry, MS Now, over the weekend. Garry Kasparov, the Russian chess guy, and said the meeting with Putin Friday was a bigger embarrassment than the withdrawal from Afghanistan, where 13 service members lost their lives because this fool, Joe Biden, wanted a photo op, where dozens more were maimed, lost limbs, where hundreds of civilians died in a suicide bombing because this absolute embarrassment, Joe Biden wanted to end it before 9/11 and brag about it. That's that moment, according to Garry Kasparov, not as embarrassing as Trump shaking hands with Vladimir Putin. But here is the guy they supported. Here's a guy who wanted to get reelected before the debate, who thought he could serve a second term. Here he is in 2023 talking about the war. And you have to understand one thing about this war. The driving factor for the whole thing, for the invasion, was Ukraine possibly joining NATO. Putin had made that clear for years. Every American diplomat said as much, that you can never expect Ukraine to join NATO and Putin to not invade. He was going to invade if he thought Ukraine was going to end up in NATO, and he was going to have NATO forces on his border and NATO missiles pointing at Moscow. He was never going to let that happen. That was the red line. And this idiot, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, who went to Europe days before the invasion and talked about Ukraine joining NATO. That was the big foreign policy blunder. That remains the biggest foreign policy blunder in recent years. But this was only 2 years ago. This is Joe Biden again saying NATO, Ukraine, while the war's going on, Ukraine is going to be in NATO. It's just incredibly stupid from a really stupid man. Listen to this.
So that it's not about whether or not they should or shouldn't join. It's about when they can join, and they will join NATO. The issue of whether or not this is going to keep Putin from continuing to fight, the answer is Putin's already lost the war. Putin has a real problem. How does he move from here? What does he do? And so the idea that there's going to be what vehicle is used, he could end the war tomorrow. He could just say, I'm out. But what agreement is ultimately reached depends upon Putin and what he decides to do. But there is no possibility of him winning the war in Ukraine. He's already lost that war. Imagine.
How did we put this man in the White House? How did people support that? People wanted him to serve a second term. They wanted Kamala Harris in the White House during this crisis. Can you imagine Kamala Harris meeting Putin? She wouldn't. That guy, Joe Biden, never even called Putin. And he says he's losing the war. That was 2 years ago. He was never losing the war. There was never a scenario by which Ukraine was winning the war. He didn't care. He just wanted to continue to send billions and billions and watch hundreds of thousands die. And he said it's not a matter of when, but not a matter of if, but when Ukraine joins NATO. That's why Putin invaded. It's all on him. All the blood, all the death, all the carnage. It's on that guy right there who said Ukraine's going to be in NATO, which everyone agrees is the line that you could not cross with Putin. That's why we are in the situation we are in right now. And thank God we have adults. We have a deal maker. We have a man who is invested in peace, who's trying to bring peace, who's not looking to make money, who's not looking to enrich, arms dealers and make Ukrainian bureaucrats and oligarchs rich. That's ending. That's over. That's a good thing. All right, let's get to Marco Rubio. This guy, I used to have mixed emotions about Marco Rubio, but he's so good at this. It's going to be a great ticket. J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio 2028. He goes on the Sunday shows, of course, because he's fearless and he's really good at it. And he just, pushes back on all the silly media narratives that they push, that they stick, that they fall back on every time anything Trump does. They come up with these fake narratives of what motivates Trump. They don't know. They can't get their mind around the possibility that Trump might really want peace. They look at him, he's crazy, he's brash, he's vulgar, they can't really have noble motivations here where he actually wants peace. Here he is with Martha Raddatz. Would you listen to yourself, Martha? Go ahead.
Can you name any concessions that Vladimir Putin made during this meeting? Have any
I wouldn't name him on your program.
Have any concessions
I wouldn't name
been
him
asked?
on your program. Why would I do that?
Where is the
Well,
pressure?
of course, because you can't have a peace agreement. No, you can't have a peace agreement unless both sides give and get. You can't have a peace agreement unless both sides make concessions. That's a fact. That's true in virtually any negotiation. If not, it's just called surrender. And neither side is going to surrender. So both sides are going to have to make concessions. So of course concessions were asked. But what utility would there be of me going on a program and tell you we wagged our finger at Putin and told him you must do this and you must do that? It's only going to make it harder and less likely that they're going to agree to these things. So these negotiations, as much as everyone would love it to be a live pay-per-view event, these discussions only work best when they are conducted privately in serious negotiations in which people who have to go back and respond to constituencies, because even totalitarian governments have constituencies they have to respond to. People have to go back and defend these agreements that they make. And so, and figure out a way to explain them to people. So we need to create space for concessions to be made. But of course, concessions were asked.
And then he went on with Margaret Brennan and said it's a stupid narrative that Trump is going to bully Zelensky today. He just sits there and pushes back, and it's so good. I mean, who was in this position? Anthony Blinken, the last 4 years, that spineless little worm was in this position. This would never, ever be happening if Trump hadn't won. This war would be raging, would be escalating. We'd be more involved. It'd be costing us hundreds of billions more. This is a great thing, and the media hates it because Trump is doing it. Here's Marco with Margaret.
You know, there is concern from the Europeans that President Zelensky is going to be bullied into signing something away. That's why you have these European leaders coming as backup tomorrow. Can you? No, it isn't. That's not why they're coming as back. That's not true. No, but that's not why that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming. That February Oval Office meeting in front of television cameras, where President Zelensky. Do you know how many meetings you've had since then? Oh, no, I know. And I was just up in Alaska watching the one with Vladimir Putin where a red carpet rolled out. No, but it was Zelensky. We've had more meetings. We've had one meeting with Putin and like a dozen meetings with Zelensky. So but that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're coming here tomorrow because we've been working with the Europeans. We talked to them last week. There were meetings in the UK over the previous weekend. And they said President Trump was going to demand a ceasefire as early as Thursday. No. But you said that they're coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming here tomorrow. Oh, this is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal. We've been working with these people for weeks on this stuff. They're coming here tomorrow because they chose to come here tomorrow. We invited them to come. We invited them to come. The president invited them to come. But the president told those European leaders last week that he wanted a ceasefire. The president went on television, said he would walk out of the meeting if Vladimir Putin didn't agree with one. He said there would be severe consequences if he didn't agree to one. He said he'd walk out in 2 minutes. He spent 3 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and he did not get one.
Such a stupid media narrative, says Marco. He's so right. None of that matters. If today goes well, what are they going to say then? If today goes well, it might go well. He might wear a suit. We haven't found out yet, any word yet. Ironhead, I'm watching. I'm waiting to see if the breaking news, will Zelensky wear a suit? You could probably bet on that on Polymarket right now. He will wear a suit. Well, there's a few exceptions to the rule of Trump adversaries that actually are giving him credit, saying he is indeed trying to make peace. And none other than Bill Maher, who, as we know, went to the White House, had dinner, had a margarita at the White House with Kid Rock and Donald Trump. But Maher he still doesn't like Trump. He's still a Democrat. He's still disappointed in his party and what a mess they are. But this was an interesting moment over the weekend. Bill Maher says he has sources that tell him Trump is indeed just focused on stopping the killing. Listen to this.
Look, I'll say this for Trump. He's got this idea that America is still the biggest swinging dick in the world, and we have not used our power as much as we should. That's what the tariffs are about. We have the power to change these people's, other nations' trading practices with us, some of which were out of line. I'm surprised that people went along with it as much as they did. So he wasn't completely wrong about that. He said, look, NATO hasn't been paying their fair share. I'm going to make them do that. He wasn't wrong about that. And I'll tell you this, one thing about him that I know, I'm not going to tell you how I know, but a lot of people have seen the same thing. He really does hate war. He really does not like it when people die in war. There's 4 different wars.
That is an amazing moment. You never hear that from Liz Warren or Chris Murphy or Susan Rice. He doesn't like war. You know why? Because they love war. They want war. They had no problem signing missiles like Josh Shapiro and traveling there and going to Ukraine and saying, we're going to win. Wave your Ukraine flag and let's win like it was a damn football game. Those days are over. Thank God. Trump is not acting like a cheerleader saying, yeah, he's good. He's bad. He's the good guy. So we're gonna root for him and give him give weapons and money. He's saying, let's end it. Let's just be done with this. There was one moment which drove the media just insane from Friday. Get Putin. Obviously, it's a translator, but Putin spoke first, which pissed off many people in the media and Democrats, and took no questions. But this was an incredible moment. You think Trump did a lot to placate, to appease Putin? Well, here's one where Putin returns the favor and just agrees with Donald Trump, who's been saying over and over again, in fact, says it a little too often, that it's not his war. Listen to this.
I'd like to remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be brought to the point of no return when it would come to hostilities. And I said it quite directly back then, that it's a big mistake. Today, when President Trump is saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so. I can confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good, business-like and trustworthy contact. And I have every reason to believe that moving down this path, we can come, and the sooner the better, to the end of the conflict in Ukraine.
All right, if he's lying to Trump, if he agreed to some concessions and then violated that, then there'll be sanctions. Then it'll go sideways, like it has been going for 3.5 years. We will see. Get Trump's post from this morning, where this is the difference. You just heard Biden saying Ukraine will be in NATO. We will have NATO forces on the Russian border, which again is the ultimate provocation with Putin. Here's Trump this morning. President Zelensky of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight. Remember how it started? No getting back Obama given Crimea 12 years ago without a shot being fired, and no going into NATO by Ukraine. Some things never change. That's pretty clear. That means they're not getting Crimea. Obama let them take that. And none of those clowns you just heard from, Chris Murphy and Susan Rice, had no problem with that. Russia taking Crimea, and they're not getting it back, and they're not getting in NATO. Seems pretty cut and dried, pretty clear to me. But we will see. We do not know. Is he wearing a suit? Someone said maybe all the European leaders, maybe Keir Starmer and Macron and Meloni, maybe they'll show up in fatigues to show solidarity with Zelensky. But something tells me it's going to go a little better than the last Oval Office meeting they had with Vladimir Zelensky. All right, what a wild day. We are waiting his arrival. They got the cameras situated outside the White House. We got so much more to get to. I got to get to James Comey, not Comer, Comey. Comer right now is grilling Bill Barr. That's going to be good. But Comey, he's a Swiftie. He's a 64-year-old man who identifies as a 16-year-old girl. That guy was running the FBI not that long ago. Oh, and we got to get to an ESPN host, a very prominent ESPN host who doesn't know who Barry Sanders is. Yes, DEI in action. We'll get to that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
All right, have you tried Callahan coffee yet? Well, you should. It's really good stuff. Our first branded product. This is a premium dark roast blend roasted fresh to order in Waltham, Mass. The Callahan coffee blend combines beans from 3 continents to create a unique natural coffee flavor, rich with chocolate and sweet with caramel taste notes, creating a full-bodied dark roast with low acidity. People keep telling us they love it. They keep ordering more. You got to try it. Callahan Coffee is a great way to directly support this show. So order it now at CallahanCoffee.com. That's CallahanCoffee.com. If you're not convinced yet that the 4 years, the 2020 to 2024, were not a dark stain on this country, where we had a dementia-riddled president, an absolute incompetent vice president, a terrible foreign policy team. We had a FBI director. Trump actually kept him in his first term before firing him. We had an FBI director and a deep state operative. Obama had him. Biden loved him. This guy is out of his mind. He's insane, as we've talked about before. He's the one who put with little shells on the beach, spelled out 8647, which is a threat on the life of a sitting president. But this guy is just completely off the rails. He posts just crazy stuff, including this weekend, where he posted a 5-minute video professing his love for Taylor Swift. Again, 64-year-old man, saying that he did everything but make the little heart shape with his hands, talking about how much he loves Taylor Swift. God, this is the cringiest thing. We play a lot of cringy stuff from Democrats and the media and Biden, Obama people, but this could be the worst. We'll play a little. Check this out.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to my Substack. Last week's cold turns out to have been COVID, quite a flashback. And Donald Trump is still president and still humiliating America on a national stage, standing next to Vladimir Putin. It's like a dream, a bad dream you can't wake up from. But I don't want to talk about that bad dream this week. I want to talk about a truly inspirational public figure named Taylor Swift. Of course, I watched her podcast interview with the Kelsey brothers. Of course, I watched the whole thing, although on YouTube, Patrice and I got kicked off for the last 15 minutes and finished it on her phone. But I watched it. You see, Taylor Swift and I go way back. I went to my first concert of hers 15 years ago. I've been to a second, and I have helped financially support the attendance of a lot of family members at others. I'm in a family's Swiftie group chat. I know all her music, and I listen to it in my headphones when I cut the grass. So yes, I have a favorite of hers, although honestly, for me, it's a tie between All Too Well, 10-minute version, and Exile featuring Bon Iver. Taylor Swift has grown up with my family and provided us a soundtrack, really, as we've grown ourselves and learned and adapted and dealt with adversity and celebration. She had songs for all of it. I suspect that's something that millions of Americans have also experienced in their families. I think that's because Taylor Swift produces great art, but also because she models something. At every stage of her career, she's shown a certain way of being that resonated with my kids and also felt right to me as a parent. And she's still doing that as a grown-up. Like a lot of you, I struggle with how to stand up to bullies without...
Oh, shut up. God, he's stand up to bullies. He's the ultimate bully. The ultimate bully. Oh, God, please just arrest him already. We know he's guilty as hell. We know he conspired with these other deep staters to bring down Trump. Can we just get on with it? Can we just handcuff this disgrace, this absolute embarrassment? He's a Swiftie. He's in a family group chat about Taylor Swift. God, this guy, I mean, he could plead insanity after they arrest him because he's insane. That guy was in charge of the preeminent law enforcement agency in the world. How did he get there? Every time I hear these guys speak, whether it's Brennan or Clapper or Comey, I think, how did they? I mean, Brennan was a communist. He was literally he voted for Gus Hall, a communist, when he was younger, and somehow he made it to the upper echelon. He was running the CIA. we got a real problem. Democrats have a real problem with the people who rise through the ranks. But all right, before we get to the ESPN lady, I got to get to this story. It was the most disturbing story over the weekend, and it's still just driving. If you missed it, yes, another illegal alien killed more Americans. His name was Hanjandir Singh, an illegal alien from India, who isn't a citizen, isn't an American, somehow went to California and not only got a driver's license, got a CDL license. He got a license to operate a tractor trailer truck, a semi. That's what they do in California. They give licenses to drive these big, massive, deadly machines to illegal aliens. He was in Florida over the weekend. He took an illegal U-turn. If you haven't seen it yet, can you just play it from the beginning? It's the most striking thing about this is he shows no emotion. He killed 3 people. He killed a 30-year-old man from Florida City, a 37-year-old woman from Pompano Beach, and a 54-year-old man from Miami. Just killed them because he took his tractor trailer and took a U-turn, illegal U-turn, and they were behind him, and they just had no chance, drove right into the side of the tractor trailer and died. Watch him. It doesn't faze him. Boom. A minivan right into the side of his truck. He's looking back going, oh, damn, well, what do I got to do now? He gets out. They have the whole crime scene. He's still standing there. No emotion, nothing. There are people in California. There he is. Politicians, Democrats, every one of them, Gavin, Newsom, who supported giving a CDL license to this illegal alien. And now 3 Americans are dead. And nobody will express remorse. Gavin Newsom, this is remarkable. Give me Newsom's tweet. What Gavin Newsom, you want to talk about soulless people that prioritize illegal aliens because they give them power and don't give a damn how it affects Americans. They post this because Singh came into the country in 2018. And this glib post, guess who was president in 2018? So they want to blame Trump because he snuck over the border in 2018. Trump didn't give him a CDL license. Those people are dead because you gave him a license to operate that vehicle, not because he snuck in 2018. By the way, he claimed he felt his life wouldn't be in danger if he gets sent back to India. You don't have to worry about that. I just saw the Attorney General of Florida saying this guy will likely spend his life in American prison. If he ever gets out, he'll immediately be deported. But Democrats are so cavalier and casual. And yeah, illegal aliens, they need licenses so they can work. 19 states give illegal aliens driver's licenses. And some of them give them CDL licenses. And when someone dies as a result, they don't give a shit. It's remarkable. Newsom should be posting my condolences to the families that have been destroyed. He should be posting, maybe this one slipped through the cracks. We'll fix that. We'll stop that. Instead, they post a goofy picture of Trump and blame Trump. They have no soul. Gavin Newsom is a soulless lizard man. He's just a vacuous, empty vessel who only cares about power. He doesn't care about dead Americans. Did he ever express condolences to Laken Riley's family or Jocelyn Nungary's or Rachel Marin or any of the hundreds of thousands of Americans who died as a result of the Biden invasion over the border or the fentanyl that pulled over the border? They don't care. They care about illegal aliens. That's their priority. Protecting them, counting them in the sentence, getting them a pathway to citizenship. This story is just so infuriating. It happened on August 12th, I should say, on the Florida Turnpike in St. Lucie. But it's just amazing. Let's just give them licenses. Let's give them CDL licenses. What could go wrong? Well, people could die, and they did die. And you hear nothing, no regret, no sorry, we probably, shouldn't have done that. Maybe we'll fix that little mistake. And they'll say, illegal aliens, they're just trying to make a better life for their family. What about the families of 3 Americans dead because they were driving down the highway in a minivan and this menace decides, I'll just turn here. He shouldn't be driving. He shouldn't be in the country. Why can't we all agree on that? Why can't any Democrat come out and say, maybe we went too far. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe it's dangerous driving a tractor trailer truck on American highways if you're not, if you're not an American. How's that? If you're an illegal alien. And he made one big mistake. He did it in Florida. If he did this in California, I have no doubt he would say, "Oh, it's an accident." He'd be walking free. He did it in Florida. He is going to prison. Maybe he'll go to Alligator Alcatraz and spend his time, and then he'll go back to India. But when did anyone think it was a good idea? Let's give illegal aliens licenses. It's dangerous enough out there with the American drivers. I want to get to this story. Any word yet? Zelensky show up yet? Ironhead?
Not yet. I'm looking.
We'll see. I would bet that he's going to have a suit or something, at least a sport coat. I think
he's going to look like he's going to a funeral. He's going to have like a suit jacket on over like a black turtleneck.
Yeah, that's a good guess. Or like a black shirt and a black jacket. Because as you know, everything's about his image. He wants to appear like he's a real warrior, wartime leader, and not a guy who can play piano with his penis, a comedian and an actor who's got his start in his career as like a slapstick actor and clown. But we'll see how it goes today. But we got to get to this ESPN story. God, this made me laugh out loud. Monica McNutt, if you don't watch much ESPN, you may not know who she is. She's a pretty prominent host. And she's a woman that said that young girls only admire Caitlin Clark because she's white. So she's obviously someone in good standing at ESPN. She's a African-American female with a wiffle. That's a thing now. Get the Curly Howard hairdo. And she has a guest. And I'm not sure if this guy is wearing this shirt properly because the name is on the front. But clearly, it's a Barry Sanders shirt. It's a blue Detroit Lions shirt with the number 20 on it. He's only the best running back in NFL history, in my opinion. He's certainly the greatest running back I've ever seen. And one of the, 10 biggest stars in NFL history. And this guy, he looks kind of silly wearing this on the show, but whatever. He's paying homage to the great Barry Sanders. And the host doesn't know who that is. The host is she a host of First Take? I can never keep the host straight. Every show has some, a black female with a buzz cut. And here she is with Stephen A. and their guest comedian, actor, creator, entrepreneur with a Barry Sanders shirt, which appears to be on backwards, but whatever. He's got his Barry Sanders shirt, and she thinks it's a Shedeur Sanders shirt. That is unbelievable. I mean, my wife would probably know that that's not Shedeur Sanders, but the host at ESPN doesn't. Listen to this.
All right, so the jersey. Let's get into it because obviously this ties to one Shedeur Sanders who balled out in his first preseason game.
This is Barry Sanders.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Barry Sanders. But the tie, come on, the tie is the Sanders. Bear with me. Bear with me. But let's get into Shedeur because
let's get into Shedeur. She thought that was a Shedeur Sanders jersey. Shedeur's a quarterback, lady. He can't wear number 20. And that's not Dion either. That is Barry Sanders, no relation. What do you bet she thinks that they're related? That's one of those gaffes. She must have been just like mortified. It was live, I assume. If it were taped, they could have clipped it. But there's your daily DEI update from ESPN. I wonder how silly she feels. And can you answer me that question, Iron? Is that shirt on backwards?
It's
why is the name of
they do that for style sometimes, people. I don't know why, but
so the name is on the front?
Yeah.
People don't appreciate Barry Sanders enough because he never won. He never won, but lots of great running backs never won, and he is one. He was just, if you ever get a chance to see like a highlight video, he was just amazing. No one better, no one quicker, no one could move laterally. He was just but he was one of those Detroit Lions, like Calvin Johnson, who just quit too young, quit too early. Probably good for him, but it was good to see him pay tribute to them. All right, before we go, I want to do one more. Kathy Hochul, this horrible governor of New York, she has a solution. You know, Democrats are upset that the Trump administration is deporting illegal alien criminals, and they're trying to stop it. Her solution is to pardon them. Yes, she's pardoning criminal illegal aliens to keep them in your neighborhood, including, I think she pardoned 13, including a murderer, a guy convicted of manslaughter. The Trump administration was moving to deport him, and she stopped them by pardoning. Again, Democrats don't care about victims. They don't care about victims of violent crime as long as that crime is committed by their most coveted demographic, illegal aliens. Imagine being that illegal alien, you get ready to get shipped off, and the governor pardons you. How'd you like to be the family of the person who was murdered? You're saying, wait a second, this is the governor of our state, and she's letting this guy off the hook. She's pardoning him just so he won't get deported? They are insane. They really are. They should take a cue from Bill Maher and just understand some of these policies make sense. Cleaning, stopping crime in New York, in Washington, D.C., that makes sense. People like that. As Bill Maher said, you got to give him credit for getting the other NATO countries to pay their fair share, and yet they won't. Chris Murphy won't do that. You know, Kathy Hochul won't do that. Hakeem, Liz Warren, none of them. It doesn't matter what he does. So he gets, implements these tariffs. They seem to be working out okay. There was no crash. There was no recession. And they still say, oh, it's going to make prices spike. They just can't get past. They're just so, their brains are broken. They're in a fog of Trump hatred that they can't say, maybe convicted killers should be deported. But no, I'd like to be that guy's neighbor. You're saying, good, gonna get him out of this country. Nope, governor just pardoned him. What a plan, what an idea. But all right, we are eagerly awaiting the arrival of Zelensky and other European leaders who are there, to make sure he doesn't get bullied, says Margaret Brennan. Yeah, he brought Giorgia Meloni to make sure Trump doesn't bully him. But I don't think Trump's going to bully him. I think it's going to go well. Maybe not. We will see. We will be watching. Here's Trump's schedule. It's incredible. There are 75 million people who thought Kamala Harris could do this. Hell, there were 75 million people who thought Joe Biden at 82 could do this. Can you throw that up on the screen? This is amazing. Noontime, he meets, the European leaders come first at noon, and they meet, and photographers only. 1 o'clock, the president greets the president of Ukraine, open press. That's another thing. Trump just invites the cameras in, and then he has a bilateral meeting with Zelensky at 1:15. At 2:15, the president greets the European leaders in the dining room, has lunch, closed to the press. That's rare. And then he participates in a family photo with European leaders, photographers only. And then he has multilateral meeting with European leaders at 3 p.m. And then I assume, tries to play 9, maybe at 4 or 5. Who knows? But he'll be tweeting, posting, truthing through it all, which is great. The most transparent president we have ever seen. But that will do it for today as we eagerly await the big meeting. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we will do it again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Oh, my God. Is she crazy?
Thank you
Wow.
all. Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, too many. Thank you.